1990 feels awfully late for making a video game sequel where everything is completely different. There was a ton of that in the 80s when people were still unsure how audiences would respond to sequels. But by 1990, most people seem to have realized that what audiences would want is the previous game, but more. And after that, you'd almost have to have a big franchise if you were going to get experimental with a new game in the series. Honey on the Road is part of a dying breed. The original Honey in the Sky was a shoot-'em-up. It was a very early PC Engine game, reaching shelves in early 1989, just as third parties really started rolling on the PC Engine. And Honey on the Road is, I don't even know how to describe this. I guess the closest comparison would be Capcom's Son Son? Really though, Honey on the Road is unlike anything else. Honey on the Road is the first PC Engine game developed by Arc System Works, and only their fourth game overall. Their previous three were on the Famicom. Of course, Arc System Works would go on to be a major developer and publisher in their own right, and these days are probably best known for Diva Girls, Divas on Ice. The titular Honey in Honey on the Road, as well as its two-player counterpart Lemon, is a living Honeywa statue. These clay figurines date back to the 4th and 5th century, and while the more abstract cylindrical ones are what you commonly see in Japanese pop culture, they could be very elaborate. Honey on the Road is technically a prequel to Honey in the Sky, though I don't think it actually matters that much. The story is that Honey is just chilling out one day when there's an earthquake, and then a god shows up and says that a demon's been released, and so Honey heads out to stop the demon. It's a really thin story for such an elaborate cutscene at the beginning. The game consists of 30 stages, but there's branching paths, and so you'll only have to play 19 of them in order to complete it. And the stages in Honey on the Road are... oh boy, this is going to get complicated. The common feature of every stage is that there are 4 lanes, and you switch between them by pressing up and down. Honey can also jump by pressing button 1, and do a little flip by pressing button 2 that acts as an attack. And then the details vary about as widely as you can get. You start out on an auto-scroller, then on the next level you have to run the path yourself. All 4 of the lanes can scroll independently at different speeds, and sometimes they'll be running in opposite directions. Every stage has some kind of gimmick, so on one level you might be doing some precision platforming, on another you might be dodging falling rocks. Sometimes you have to be very careful about which lane you're in, avoiding getting trapped by dead ends or pitfalls. And other times, you should be switching a lot, getting out of the way of traps that are flowing towards you. Anything that you can think to do with a pseudo-platformer that has 4 independently moving lanes, Arc System Works put that in. Of course, those lanes are often occupied by monsters, and Honey's little flip can sometimes knock them out. Unfortunately, the flip is pretty bad. The range is super short, and between yourself, the monster, and the floor moving at different rates, connecting with it can often be harder than it looks. Now, the hitbox is larger than it seems, but not that much larger. It's not large enough for you to have a lot of leeway in timing your attacks. There's a lot of things that Honey will find on the road, and some of those are actually useful, like the extra lives. You can also collect 30 of the potions to earn an extra life. There is a bug with the potions, but it's one that works in your favor. When you get a game over, if you choose to start a new game instead of continuing, then you retain your potion count. I think it's because there's infinite continues, and so it's a bug that didn't really matter, but it's nice that it's there. There are attack items that Honey can pick up and carry with them. The weight and the heavy ball will slow Honey down so they can't jump very far. But when you release them by pressing button 2, then they can do a lot of damage. The hoop replaces the flip attack, and instead will fly forward and bounce off enemies to come back at you. If you jump though, then Honey just leaves it behind. And there's even more than that, because this is a game that just has everything and the kitchen sink in it. One weird trick in Honey on the Road is that if you lose your last life by falling in a hole, then Honey winds up in Hell. Hell is a super challenging stage, but you're given 3 lives to try to get through it. And if you can pull that off, then you're right back where you were. Otherwise, continuing takes you to just after the last boss that you defeated. So now I've got to talk about the big thing about Honey on the Road. It's hard. Hopefully I've been editing well enough that it either doesn't seem that difficult or I look really good, but I struggled to reach the second boss. It took me maybe half an hour to reach the first boss, and that was only 4 stages in. Touching anything is fatal for Honey, and between the disorientating motion and tiny attack reach, you're going to lose a lot of lives. I'd even go so far as to say some stages in Honey on the Road are just unfair. You practically have to memorize layouts in order to do well. This is a surprisingly brutal game for something that has such a cutesy aesthetic. Honey on the Road is a game that hates you and wants to see you dead. That might be why Honey on the Road seems to have a bit of a mixed reaction in Japan. I found lots of people who liked how the game looked, and people who were really irritated with how difficult it was. My personal feeling is that this is about 90% of the way to a great game. I love how every stage is a completely different challenge. I like how you're given multiple routes, so you don't have to play a stage that you get stuck on. I even like the complicated platforming most of the time. My single biggest problem is that the attack is terrible. Change it from a weird little flip to a headbutt, and I think that would improve Honey on the Road enormously. I find Honey on the Road to be interesting conceptually, but if you want to play it, it's really going to depend on your tolerance for that weak attack and some extreme difficulty.